Ready? All right, guys. I hope we got some people on here. How many guys we got?
Yeah, they're fixing to.
We're gonna give it a minute till we get a few people. Everybody kind of get logged on and connect. It's not showing up on mine. I don't know. Will it show up as a notification?
Yeah, there's one watching right now. Yes.
That's not what I'm asking.
No, it will be on your page.
Okay, well, I'm on my page and I do not see it.
We'll refresh it because it's on there now. There's 10 people watching.
Okay. All right. I think we got it now. Maybe we can get started here. I appreciate y'all for tuning in tonight. Basically, the purpose of tonight is to talk about, every year for the last several years, we've done a Black Friday sale for Woodbank Country, and we have been releasing some new baits around this time of the year every year for the last couple of years. This year, we've actually got 10 completely brand new models for Black Label, not just colors, but models. We're going to basically do one model a day for 10 days. Our sale's going to last 10 days. It's going to start Friday. We're going to be 10% off site-wide. That's Black Label brands as well as any other brand. So this is a great opportunity to not only buy some of these new baits, but to stock up on all your favorite wooden baits that we carry. So let's just dive into this deal, and I'm kind of going to try to go in day one, in each day. So we're going to release a new bait every day. So we've got 10 new baits, 10-day sale. Pretty simple math. We're going to do one bait a day. Day one, we're going to start with the C1. This is going to be the first bait we're going to release. And the C1 is a bait that I've been working on for, I don't know, a year and a half maybe. And the Wreck Squirrelbill has a huge following for the Black Label brand, and it's a great bait. I've caught a ton of fish on the Wreck, but there's been times that I felt like I needed a version of the Wreck, same basic profile, same basic weight, but that was just a little bit softer, whether it was having to deal with a little bit clearer water, or maybe just a day where I had very little wind. I needed something that just didn't have quite as much thump, but I wanted a bait that still had a similar vibration and a bait that still came through cover and recovered real fast. And what I mean by that is, when the bait comes into contact with a stump or a log, as it bounces off, it recovers really quick. Oftentimes that's the key to generating and getting a fish to eat it. And that's kind of where the C1 came from. Is basically just a toned down, a little bit softer version of a Wreck. If you look at the C1 body, it's slightly taller than a Wreck, but it's substantially thinner than a Wreck. It's not a flat bait, but it is a little bit thinner, and it also has a little bit narrower lip. Everything else about the bait is pretty much the same as far as the way it's constructed. The wire, the line tie goes through the lip just like it does on the Wreck. Carries the same size hooks. I did choose to make this model with 3D eyes. I've had quite a few people reach out over the last couple of years saying, we love your baits. We'd love to see you make some with some 3D eyes. Just because 3D eyes, especially when you're trying to match a shad, does give it a little bit more element of realism. And also, because this bait is very similar shaped, it's not the same bait in the water, I promise. As a Wreck, I felt like having the 3D eyes on the C1 would make it very easy to distinguish between the two, in a person's tackle box. So if you have Wrecks already, you want to get some of these for the conditions that we were just talking about. When you're reaching out to get a C1, it has 3D eyes on it. When you're reaching out to get a Wreck, it has the traditional painted on eyes that we've always used. So that's the C1. This is a, 3 to 5 foot bait. It's 2 1/8 of an inch long, and it weighs 7/16 of an ounce. I'm sorry guys, I'm just wore out. We have really, really hustled the last 7, 8, 10 days to get all this put together, and we've dealt with a bunch of bad weather last night and only got a very little bit of sleep, so you have to bear with me tonight, but we're going to go through this. I see I've got some comments here. You have any questions? So no real questions on the C1. This is going to become a staple square bill, I'm telling y'all. I've been fishing this bait for over a year. I've got quite a few buddies that have had an opportunity to fish with it and play with it. Everybody that touches this bait loves it. It's going to be a bait that is definitely going to fit in very well in our balsa bait world. So the next bait on the list is the Badger. Now, for I don't know how long, as long as I've been building balsa baits, I have people that message me or send me a Facebook message or through Messenger or call me, and I get asked all the time, man, do you make a good, 6 foot deep, small profile bait? And they want to compare it to baits that are on the market like that, something like a 200 series Bandit or something like a DT6. And I've been working on, I've got a friend of mine that is very much so infatuated with this style of bait. And he's very, very thorough, he's very meticulous, and he and I have been working on the Badger probably for about 2 years, back and forth. I spent a couple $100 in postage sending him samples, and I fish with it a ton too. And the Badger is exactly what we just talked about. It's a very good, it's just a good moderate action crankbait. It's soft, it's subtle enough you can fish it in cooler weather, cooler water, but it's got enough vibration you can fish it in the warm months of the year. It's a great lake bait, it's a great river bait. You can fish it in cleaner water, you can fish it in stained water based on just the different colors you choose to use in it. So, the Badger, I built it to fit that gap, because every time someone would ask me that question, I wouldn't have an answer. I'd say, well, you might try this, you might try that, but I didn't have, a little small 2-inch, 6 foot deep bait. The Prowler MR has been one of my favorite baits that we've made for the last year or two to fit that need, but there is times when the Prowler MR is just a little bit big, and it also goes a little bit deeper. So the Badger now kind of fills that void, smaller profile, a little shallow diving depth. This bait runs 6 foot on 12-pound test line. You can get it deeper if you put it on a wider line. It's 2 1/8 of an inch long, weighs 3/8 of an ounce, and the shape of this bait really allows it to cast very well. It's just a good, what I like to call a good run-of-the-mill crankbait. This is a crankbait that fits. It's not a super niche bait. This is a crankbait that fits a lot of different situations you run into while fishing. So that is the new Badger, and the Badger will be released on day 2 of our sale.
William wants to know, would you compare that one to the Bacon Candy Dolphin, and when would you decide to fish one over the other?
Well, the Bacon is the Bacon itself. This is called salad bar color, sort of similar to the Candy Dolphin, which we have the Badger in a tremendous amount of colors. When we release it, you're going to see we probably got 30 or so colors. I actually think I feel certain that I made the Badger in Candy Dolphin as well, if you're looking for that color. But when you compare the Badger to, say, the Bacon is a little bit shallower running depth bait. It also is a tighter bait. It's a flat side, and it has a circuit board lip. As far as when I would fish one over the other, this bait is, for one, it's going to get about 2 foot deeper than a Bacon. So that's obviously going to play a big factor. The Bacon for me has become one of my favorite baits in the fall months of the year. A lot of times fish just has so much pressure, your oxygen content gets real low in the fall, it's hard to get them to bite, and the Bacon is just a good, small profile, subtle action bait. Not saying the Bacon won't work at other times of the year, but the Bacon is becoming extremely, one of my top choices for the fall months, that September, October time frame. The Badger, on the other hand, is a bait that I feel like I would fish far more throughout the year, just because, like, say in the early post-spawn, those fish first go out, this is a bait that, just because it'll get a little bit more depth to it, this is a bait that I'd fish more maybe on offshore stuff. This is a bait that I would use to fish, like if you're fishing a river, and instead of fish being up on the shoreline, they're kind of out on the end of lay down with trees. This is a bait that I would use in that situation where I wouldn't necessarily use the Bacon for that, just because of the difference in diving depth. This bait also, to me, it just is a completely different bait from the Bacon in action. This bait is not as tight as the Bacon. It's got a little more tail kick. We actually have a swim video of the Badger, and we need to show the swim video to C1. I kind of skipped over that. Told you I was tired, but let's take a look at the swim video. If Tiffany can pull it up for us of the Badger, and I might help you see the difference between, say, the Badger and the bacon. So that's the C1. You can see the C1 how it's a little bit tighter than the Rec, like I was talking about. Doesn't have as much tail kick, but it has that really good reverse float, fat body bait. It's going to do extremely well in cover. Float, fat body bait. It's going to do extremely well in cover. Fat body bait. It's going to do extremely well in cover. Badger MR. Fat body bait. You can see the Badger. It's a little bit wider than, say, the bacon, like the question you asked. Real responsive bait, has a real sexy swimming action to it. But the Badger, it's a little bit wider than, say, the bacon, like the question you asked. Real responsive bait, has a real sexy swimming action to it. But the Badger, it's a little bit wider. So that's the Badger. We got any more questions about the C1 on the Badger?
He said, I totally see what you mean. I like it.
Okay, great. Glad I was able to help. Okay, so day 3. So day 3 is going to be a pretty unique bait. It's this is a bait that I wanted. I built this bait just to have a. I don't know what the proper term for this is, but you have baits that are real slow and sluggish, that are lazy. And you have baits that have like a real fast, like rapid fire type vibration and action. And this is the cricket. And it falls under the category of that rapid fast, really quick action style bait. Very fast vibration, very responsive, very, very sexy swimming action. You're gonna see that in just a second. But the cricket is a 5 to 6 foot bait, depending on what size line you throw it on. It's 2 1/4 inches long and it weighs 5/16 of an ounce. But the cricket is built with a penny lip. And that penny lip on a tighter angle allows the water to come off of that bait up real close to the corners of the bait. And it creates that real fast, real rapid fire vibration, swimming action that I was trying to achieve with this bait. This is a bait that I've caught a tremendous amount of fish on while testing. I've caught them on in the spring. I've caught them on in the fall. This has just been a bait that has really paid dividends for me so far throughout the prototyping. You know, I built several different versions until I finally got this kind of combination put together with the size of the lip, with the length and overall width and height of the body. The cricket, it's different. I don't really know of a bait that I would compare it to. It's going to almost feel, when you cast it and retrieve it, it's going to almost feel like a lipless. And that's kind of what I've been doing with this bait. This fall I fished this bait a lot on just flats where there really isn't a lot of cover around, where I'm just making casts and covering water, kind of like a lot of people use a lipless spoil when those fish get in the back of the pockets and they just got shad bunched up back there. I caught a bunch of fish with this bait this year, you know, during the spring. But the cricket's a pretty cool bait. For those of y'all that like a bait where you want to show the fish something different, something that they haven't seen or that they haven't felt, the cricket's a bait that I would definitely recommend you get and try if you and see what you think about it. But that's the cricket. The cricket's going to be released on day 3. And again, the cricket's 5 to 6 foot diving range. It's 2 1/4 inches long and it weighs 5/16 of an ounce. Tiffany, you got the swim video of the cricket?
I do. They want to know like what day of the week too.
Okay, I'm sorry guys. The sale's going to start on Friday. So Friday will be the C1, Saturday will be the Badger, the cricket will be Sunday. Give me some notes on that.
Cricket.
Kelly wants to know, will it thump like a chatterbait, the cricket?
It doesn't have as much thump as a bladed jig, no.
Cricket.
But it does have, when you reel a bladed jig at a sort of a fast rate of speed, you get that real responsive, fast vibration. And the cricket does, it absolutely does feel similar to that. But if you slow roll a bladed jig, or you're just getting that slow, steady thump, the cricket doesn't feel like that. So, you know, a bladed jig, the vibration it produces is greatly dependent on, you know, how fast you retrieve it. So if you're retrieving a bladed jig at a pretty fast rate of speed, I'm not talking about necessarily burning it, but just coming on with it pretty good. You understand, you know exactly what I mean when you talk about that fast vibration. The bladed jig is really good for that. And yes, the cricket does respond in that way. When you compare it to a faster retrieve version of a bladed jig technique, the cricket is very similar to that.
Kenny wants to know, is it tighter action than the Speedy?
As far as the amount of tail kick and body roll that it has, it's probably pretty similar to a Speedy. The main difference between it and the Speedy is the lip design. You know, the Speedy's a square bill. The cricket is a penny lip. The cricket, I think, will actually get a little bit deeper than the Speedy as well. Probably about the same though, but the cricket has a faster, more responsive feel to it than the Speedy does. You know, I really like the Speedy. It's caught a tremendous amount of fish on it this spring, and a lot of other people did too. I got a lot of great feedback on the Speedy. It was one of our new baits from last year. The cricket kind of does fall into that same category as the Speedy, but it's a different bill setup. If you like the Speedy, I would recommend trying a cricket. At least get one and just see what you think about it. Okay, so moving on to day 4. So day 4 is the Seducer. Now, the Seducer is a bait that I've been round and round and round and round on from a design standpoint. You know, I like to throw big baits. There's a lot of situations where a bigger body bait, if you're a guy that lives on a lake that contains big forage, like say it has a lot of gizzard shad in it, you know exactly what I mean. There's a lot of times where you can actually get more bites on a larger profile crankbait than you can a smaller profile. And for a lot of people, that's hard to fathom, I realize, but those fish will really get keyed in on those bigger shad. And gizzard shad, don't get me wrong, they get substantially bigger than this crankbait, but a bigger profile crankbait, it's 2 7/8, but you might as well say it's a 3-inch bait. Very well imitates those bigger bait fish. The problem I have ran into in my life with a lot of your bigger baits, in some situations, let's say like the current 3-inch bait that I make is the bully. And I've caught a lot of fish on the bully, but the bully's designed more to fish in cover. You know, it's a big body, fat bait that has a lot of tail kick. It has a fairly wide lip in it so that it can deflect and come through cover very well. You know, the lip is proportionate to the bait. It has a really fast rise, you know, good reverse float, so you can pop your line and snap it out of snag and stuff. And all those things make it awesome if you want a big bait to throw in a lay down tree. But when you run into a body of water that has the need for a big bait and the water clarity is a little bit clearer, the bully to me oftentimes is just too aggressive. It's got too much vibration, it's got too much tail kick, it's too wide, and it's just not, for lack of better words, it's not natural enough. The bully to me is a bait that I use more so than not to generate reaction strikes. Fish are keen on bigger bait. I feel like there's fish in shallow lay downs and things of that nature. The bully's perfect for that. But when I go to a lake that the water's a little bit cleaner and the fish are keen on bigger bait, and say maybe I'm fishing like the face of boat docks or just isolated cover, like there's a stump here. You know, a lot of our lakes are like that. Every lake in the country is not just a shallow water square bill power fisherman's dream. I wanted a bait that fit those scenarios, you know, that clear water. So I've been working on the Seducer for quite some time to have a crankbait that fits that gap. The way I have achieved this, if you look at the Seducer is, from a side view, is very similar to a bully, but it is substantially thinner. It's not near as fat or wide. The other thing you'll notice about the Seducer is its lip. So this is a pretty unique crankbait. I don't know how well you can see it. Can you see it pretty good? If you look at this lip, it's more or less a square bill front. It has a little bit of curve to the front of it. But if you look at it, you see how I have the sides have an inward curve. And what this inward curve does versus just a straight line bill is it takes some of the vibration away from the bait. It takes some of the body roll and some of the thump away from the bait. So you have a bait that is what I like to call toned down. It's a softer, more muted version, swimming action and vibration wise, than a standard square bill crankbait. You're going to see this lip again. I like this lip enough when I finally got it figured out that actually two of these baits contain this lip, and I'm really happy with both of them. But the Seducer, for me, you know, I hate to use very specific examples because I don't want people to think that, you know, well, that bait's made for just that lake at that time. But I am going to, in this situation, I'm going to use a lake like, let's say, Lake of the Ozarks. You know, Lake of the Ozarks is full of big gizzard shad. The bottom 2/3 of the lake are normally fairly clear. And believe it or not, it's a great cranking lake. But if you go there in the late summer or fall, most of the time the water clarity is not going to allow you to throw a gizzard shad profile size bait and get a lot of bites unless you have that magic day, which none of us ever seem to get a fish on those magic days when the front's coming in or you got cloud cover and a lot of wind, and you can get away with more aggressive bait. Most of the time when I get to go fishing, it seems like I have less than ideal conditions, and that's the only day that I get to go, so that's when I go. This bait fits that type of scenario perfectly. I need a bigger profile, I want a bigger profile, the fish are keen on bigger profile stuff, but the water's just not stained enough to throw, or there's not, either the water's not stained enough or there's not enough cover in the water to throw a normal 3-inch profile, hard thumping, hard vibrating square bill. That's where the Seducer comes in. Now the other thing about the Seducer, and I wasn't expecting this when I built this bait, but the Seducer, I can actually get the Seducer to run. If I put the Seducer on 12-pound test line and a you know, like a 7'4" or 7'10" cranking rod, or I can make a really long cast with it, I can actually get this bait to run 9 foot, which you would never think just looking at the design of this bait. But there's something about this bill that helps this bait just enable to just keep going and keep going and keep going. When I first took this bait out and tested it, I was blown away at how deep it would go. So now you take the other application for me for the Seducer. The Seducer is perfect when those fish first go offshore in the summer. Like down there where I live, normally that's May and early June. You know, the fish haven't made it out to the main lake stuff. They've got done spawning, the shad spawn's over. And those fish have kind of started to group up on maybe little shallow bars that are in, 6 to 10 foot of water. I think a lot of times that there's a gizzard shad spawn offshore. They're keying on those bigger bait fish that are spawning on those hard spots. This bait is absolutely killer for that situation, and it's a bait that those fish just don't see, So the Seducer is kind of a 1-2 punch for me. It's a great early post-spawn bait. It's also going to be extremely good bait if you want a bigger profile bait and you live in fish bodies of water that don't give you the opportunity to use, like, say, a bully or the old B3 style. You want a softer, more toned down bait. So that is the Seducer, and the Seducer will be released on day 4, which is going to be Monday. And again, it is 2 7/8 of an inch long. For depth, I've got 5 to 8 foot, because if I'm throwing this around shallow cover, I might throw it on 17 or even 20. That's going to make it be a 5 foot bait. If I'm throwing it offshore on 12, I feel pretty confident I can get a solid 8 foot out of it. And it weighs a ½ ounce, so that offshore fishing, I can really fire this thing out there and get a lot of casting distance out of it, and that's what actually helps it also create that deeper diving depth. Okay,
What's your video?
you got a swing video of the Seducer?
That's what I should do.
Yeah, show that.
The Seducer. The Seducer. Can you click your turn the microphone up? I've got it pointed down.
What?
I'll have to click it.
I'll have to click it.
Just snap it. There you go.
Technical difficulties.
Okay.
Okay, any questions or comments about the Seducer?
Not yet.
So you can see in the swimming action of it, it doesn't have near as aggressive of a tail kick as what, say, a bully or E3 style square bill would have. So it's a pretty unique bait to me. It's a bait that I have wished I had during many different situations throughout all my travels and events that I've fished. So day 5 is going to be Tuesday, and this is a bait that a bunch of y'all have asked me about. One that I wanted to make sure and get done for this year. Okay, so this is the Fat Flat. The baits that I've shown little videos of here and there, this one probably has had the most interest, or it's been way up there in the top 2 or 3. The Little Cliffy, obviously I love the Little Cliffy, or I wouldn't have named it the Little Cliffy. The Little Cliffy has been a dynamite and will always be a dynamite crankbait. And it has totally replaced my desire to throw a Shad Rap or a lot of other real small profile baits. The Little Cliffy for me is just it. It's everything that I want in that style bait, from a castability and action, the way, the depth that it will run, etc., etc. So the Fat Flat is basically you could call it the Big Cliffy, which is something that a lot of y'all have asked for. A lot of people have asked for. I didn't call it a Big Cliffy because we already have a Little Cliffy. We have a Fat Little Cliffy. And how many Cliffies can you have? So I went with Fat Flat. Now, for those of y'all that aren't familiar with the Little Cliffy, and you're looking at just this bait, not trying to compare it to the Little Cliffy, but if you despise flat baits because they're hard to cast, and you're wanting a flat side action crankbait that will throw like a rock and will get deeper than by far most normal flat sided crankbaits, the best flat side crankbait days are normally those nasty, cold, wintertime days, early spring days. Conditions that can make throwing a potato chip thin crankbait very challenging, to say the least. This bait solves all of that. You can throw this thing on 12-pound test line with a casting reel. It will actually, believe it or not, this bait will get 8 to 9 foot on 12-pound test line. It will for sure get 9 foot on 10. It's still a small profile. This is just a very user-friendly cold water crankbait. And again, it's kind of like the Seducer. You know, I have learned the last several years that our offshore fish get so much pressure now with the electronics the way they are. It's like everybody, you know, we used to all wait for the fish to go spawn, and now it seems like most anglers are counting the days for them to show up offshore because they want to fish for them with their electronics. And hey, that's all fine and good, but the problem is it has put a tremendous amount more pressure on those offshore fish. And I've learned the last couple of years that throwing these, you know, different crankbaits, handmade crankbaits out offshore, which is not really where they've always shined, can pay huge dividends. You can pick a bait like this up oftentimes and throw it in a school of fish that's in 6-7 foot of water offshore on a shallow hard spot or shell or a shallow drop, whatever it might be. After you've already caught a handful on, say, a regular standard crankbait, and they shy off of it, so many times you can pick this bait up. I did it multiple times this past year, and get them to fire right back up and catch you another 5 or 6 fish off of a place, which can be huge, especially for fishing tournaments. So the Fat Flat is, I've actually had this bait in my boat for 2 years. And I've just been kind of, you know, I like to fish with these baits for a long time just to make sure that I'm truly happy with them. I don't want to put a bait out there that I don't feel like I've thoroughly tested. But the Fat Flat is ready to go. And I think this is a bait that I'm very excited to release. I think this bait is going to really, really be liked by a lot of anglers. I get a lot of people that comment on Facebook or message me, you know, hey man, what reel do you use to throw, you know, a flat bait with? Because they have a lot of difficulty throwing flat-sided crankbaits because of their lightness. And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that I will never throw a thin flat-sided. They have their place as well. But for common day-to-day use, you want a good wintertime crankbait or a cold water crankbait that you can sure enough cast without a lot of difficulty. The Fat Flat's going to be it. And again, like I say, for all of y'all that have been asking me for the last 2 years, are you ever going to make a Big Cliffy? This is the Big Cliffy.
Buddy wants, no, wrong one. Kelly says, is it like the DT6 or the Shad Rap SR5?
It's going to get deeper than the Shad Rap SR5, and it's probably not quite as tight as the Shad Rap SR5 just because it is a little bigger. I would say from a swim standpoint, it's kind of in between. You know, a DT6 is a pretty tight bait. People don't think that it is when they see it in the package because it's not a flat side, but a DT6 is actually a pretty tight bait. This bait will get deeper than a DT6. You know, this is a 9 foot bait on 10. It's for sure an 8 foot bait on 12. But as far as the way it's going to feel when you retrieve it, it's going to have a very DT6-ish feel. It's going to have a little more feel than the Shad Rap SR5. We've got a swim video of it. You'll be able to see it here in just a second. And you'll see what I'm talking about it's pretty tight like a DT6.
Fat Flat.
He said that'll work in the hot summer too.
It absolutely will. That's what I was talking a while ago about, you know, the Seducer and the Fat Flat are
Fat Flat.
Thank you.
Yes, it absolutely will work in the hot summer. There's no question. And that's what I was talking about a while ago about the Seducer as well. The Seducer and the Fat Flat and this next bait we're going to talk about are definitely three baits in this lineup that I wouldn't shy away from at all fishing on shallow offshore structure. Or if you live on a lake where fish, a lot of our lakes, especially in the south, this summer in August and September, we have such a shallow thermocline. Our thermocline was in, 9 to 10 foot of water, and the Fat Flat was perfect for that. And those fish would respond to it better than a typical loud, wider kicking crankbait because they've just been beat on all year long. So yes, for sure, the Seducer, the Fat Flat, and this next one we're going to talk about are all three going to be baits that are going to be players this coming year during the summer months, 100%. And we've got a good selection of the Fat Flats color-wise too. I made it in some good summertime colors as well as a lot of your springtime colors. So kind of got both spectrums of it covered there from a color standpoint. So the Fat Flat goes out on Tuesday. The details on it again, it's a 79-foot bait, 2 3/8 of an inch long, and it's 3/8 of an ounce. I'm telling y'all, it will cast like a little brick. You can send it out there. So day 6, Wednesday. That's Wreck Deep Day. This is also a bait that, I tried really hard this year to make baits that a lot of y'all, the fans of Black Label, had asked me for. And I have been asked endlessly, it seems, man, are you ever going to make a deep version of the Wreck? And I know as a kid, I can remember fishing with the DB1 Bagley. It's definitely a bait that has its place. And, I messed with this bait kind of all through the summer and finally settled on, the bill angle and the bill shape and the line, all the things it takes to design a bait, and got the Deep Wreck ironed out to where I was happy with it. The Deep Wreck to me is an incredible, brush pile bait, for lack of better words. It's got the same characteristics of the Wreck. It's the exact same body. It's extremely buoyant. It has a really good reverse float. What I mean when I say reverse float is when I stop reeling this crankbait, it does not float up like this. It actually floats up like this. And that's extremely important when you're fishing, wood cover and rock cover. A crankbait wants to go in a crack of a rock or go in the fork of a tree. You stop reeling it, the crankbait can float out in reverse, allowing you to start reeling it again, and it go over the obstacle that it got basically hung in. Because the hooks, very often now or not, was hung on a crankbait. That's why you control around to the other side, and it'll come right off. The reverse float aspect of this bait makes it an extremely good crankbait. And for whatever reason, this crankbait just, it catches big ones. I think it's just the feel that it has. It has a pretty good bit of vibration. It seems to attract a better quality of fish. I noticed this summer when I was testing it, this was a really good bait for me to use. I don't know about where y'all live, but when we live down here in the summertime, a lot of our bigger fish, when it gets real hot and the water oxygen content gets real low, our better quality fish on a lot of these lakes around here, they kind of leave the shad alone. Your smaller 2-pound and under fish, they're out there schooling and chasing bait and enjoying life and being kids like we did when we were kids. But your bigger fish, they'll get on some kind of piece of structure, and they really feed a lot, I think, on bluegill and crappie. And more times than not, your bluegill and crappie are out there around offshore brush piles, offshore hard spots, even deep brim beds. I actually caught some really good fish on this bait this summer, fishing brim beds that were in 6 to 8 foot of water. The Wreck Deep is perfectly suited for all that. The other thing I think Wreck Deep is going to be really good for is an early springtime bait. When you want a bait that you can crawl through rock cover. Like I said, because of the reverse flow of this, if you go to a lake that has a lot of rocky cover and the water's stained, you just had a big rain, you need a bait that's got some good vibration, the Wreck Deep is going to absolutely be great for crawling through that baseball size rock that so many fish love to get on when the water gets some color to it and they're in that pre-spawn mode at 53 to 57 degree water. The Wreck Deep, I think, is going to be a player in that situation as well. So, for all of y'all who have asked me, are you ever going to make a Wreck Deep? Are you ever going to make a Wreck Deep? I have now made the Wreck Deep. It is available. It is ready to go, and I'm really pleased with it. I think y'all will be too, especially based on the amount of comments that I've had when I've shown it. So the rack deep is a 9-foot deep bait, and again, that's on 12 pound test fluorocarbon. It does have a pretty good bit of tail kick. It is a fairly wide bait. Talking about the tail kick and the wideness of this bait, I took this bait up north with me this year, and there's something about those northern lakes, like the popular northern lakes. Let's just use Lake St. Clair for an example. There's times up there with those smallmouth, even in that, I mean, that water is just so clean, it's amazing. But they really want a wide, aggressive tail kick bait. Smallmouth, they're just a different critter. And I actually had a tremendous amount of success on this bait up north this year. The times that I was up there when those fish were in a depth range that I could get. And, you know, up there cranking, you can be in 12 foot of water throwing a 9-foot deep bait over grass, and they'll come get it. But the wide tail kick of this bait makes it great for those clear water smallmouth as well. But it's 2 inches long, it's a 1/2 ounce. You can get it run 9 foot on 12. I haven't really pushed the limits on what this bait will do. I'll say 10 or 8, but I would say you could probably add at least another foot to it. I believe you could turn this into a 10-foot bait for sure. We got a swim video of this one.
Fix your hat.
Mm-hmm.
This is the wreck deep.
Kenny said he's gonna go homeless, be homeless.
Hmm?
Kenny said he's gonna be homeless.
Tell me it's gonna move living here.
You can see it's got a ton of reverse flow to it, making it a perfect brush pile bait.
He also says, do you have some new colors you're gonna show?
Man, as far as colors are concerned, you know, I didn't really get into a tremendous amount of new colors this year. I've got a few. I've got a new crawdad color that's kind of a new spin on how to paint a crawdad. It's real splotchy and blotchy looking. I think it's real natural to call them mud bug. We've got it in a couple of models, but I mean, I think we're up to 100 and some odd various different colors that we've offered various different baits. But all of y'all know, if y'all want a black label bait in a certain color, a current model that I made, y'all want it in a certain color, just ask. I am more than happy to paint any model bait that we make for y'all. You know, I don't want to necessarily paint it if you only want one, but just because it takes me time to do it. But if you want a couple or more, obviously if it's a color that you're willing to call me for, I don't feel like a couple or more is outside of reach, just let me know. You can send me a message through my Facebook Messenger on Cliff Pace Fishing on my Cliff Pace page. You can reach out to me by contacting our phone number. You can contact us at sales@Woodbait Country. You know, we're very easy people to get a hold of. Tiffany and I are, and I'm more than happy to make any model that we make in any color that you might possibly could dream of. I actually even painted a couple of different custom colors this week for an individual that are some of the prettiest baits that I've made. I actually wish I'd have made a few extra. He sent me some pictures of some crawfish, and if y'all want to see them, I'll go get them. Let's see. So I'm gonna pull the picture he sent up and let Tiffany show it to y'all.
Dylan said that reverse float is insane.
Yeah, the reverse flow on that wreck, I mean, I worked for that because I knew it was going to be a bait that, I mean, that bait's just got brush piles stamped all over it. So here we go, Tiffany, zoom in on that and show them. This is probably, I don't know what you call it, but we don't have them around here. This is the wildest looking crawdad I've ever seen in my entire life. Okay, so y'all got to see the picture. So there's the picture. Can you see it good like that?
Zoom in closer.
Yeah. and there's the bait. Now, I can't match it much better than that. I've even got the little white lines on the back, just like the picture does. Faint blue belly, crawfish pattern on the bottom. This individual's a friend of mine. He's a customer of ours, and he found this picture somewhere on the internet, said he had to have some, told me he would buy half a dozen of them, so I made them for him. I'll do that for any of y'all. Obviously, those aren't finished. They still need eyes, but we'll probably get them done. I may actually take half a day off Thursday, because if I don't, Tiffany's gonna kill me because we gotta go eat. But, you know, so I'll probably start working on Friday or Saturday, maybe go fishing Saturday, probably not. But anyway, colors aren't a problem. You just decide what model you want. Now look, this is not like a personal challenge to y'all to try to find the craziest, most insane looking crawfish picture and test Cliff Pace's patience to the limit on how he can match it. But I am more than happy. I want y'all to have, you know, I started Black Label so I would have the baits that I wanted to fish with. And that's what this company is based around. That's the whole point of it. That's the whole principle of it. You see all these baits that I build, that I design that are new, all of them are either baits that people have asked me for, which are our customers. Many of y'all have became friends. Or they're baits that I want in my boat. Like the Seducer was a Cliff Pace bait. Nobody had asked me for it, but I ran into situations where I felt like I needed it. The whole, that's the drive behind this whole deal. So if y'all need a custom color bait, or if y'all see a bait on the website and you say, oh man, I wish you had Wreck Deep in XYZ, but it's not available, let us know. It may be a week or two or three. Sometimes when I'm on the road, it may be a month. But I promise you, I'll get you some baits made that are the exact color you want.
Blake wants to know, was Wreck Deep in chartreuse and blue? We did a candy dolphin.
Pretty sure the Wreck Deep does come available in candy dolphin. That's the color that I pretty much make in everything. And we do have a new chartreuse and blue color that is not available in the Wreck Deep, but it's called Blue Moon. And it's available in the, I know I made it in the Fat Flat, but it's a real muted, faded version of a chartreuse and blue, kind of like one of those that's laid on the dash of your truck for 6 months. And it's called Blue Moon. I think a lot of people are going to really like it. But like I said, if I don't have it, email us at sales@woodbaitcountry. Call the number that's on the website. Send me a message on Cliff Pace Fishing, on Black Label Tackle, on Woodbait Country, on Cliff. I mean, we have 4 Facebook pages that we maintain every day. A message on any of them comes to me or Tiffany. If it comes to Tiffany, she'll get it to me. Getting in touch with us is not a problem. So if there's a color you want that I don't have, and you want to buy a handful of them, you let me know. I'll get them built for you. And that goes for foil baits, whatever. Okay, so day 7. Now this is another one of those Cliff baits. So when I got done building the Seducer, which was about a year ago, and I had made that lip that made the Seducer do what it did, you know, I couldn't leave well enough alone, and I started playing with that lip and some smaller size baits, just see what it would do. And I came up with this bait right here that I have named the Sweetheart. Now, the Sweetheart is a small bait. The small baits in the balsa world are extremely popular just because so many people that love balsa like I do grew up fishing rivers like I did, and we oftentimes face real difficult fishing conditions, and we throw a lot of small baits. If you live on the Ohio River or the Pascagoula River, which is from Midwest to the Southeast, small baits are part of your tackle arsenal. They have to be. And the Sweetheart is a really neat small bait. If you see, the Sweetheart doesn't have a tremendous amount of body width. It's not a flat bait, it's just got a good gradual taper. It's probably about 5/8 to 3/4 of an inch wide. But it has the same principle of the Seducer as far as the lip being curved in. Now I made the Sweetheart with more of a coffin bill face instead of a curved face because of the smallness of it. I wanted it to, you know, a bigger bait actually helps, a bigger body actually helps a lure recover faster. It's, believe it or not, a lot of people ask me, about building baits. I get questions all the time about it. A larger crankbait is way easier to make and balance and get to run than a smaller crankbait. Anybody that builds a lot of them will tell you the exact same thing. The coffin bill on this bait just worked better. I started off with a scaled down design of the same lip that was in the Seducer. Didn't hate it, but thought it could be better, so I tried 5 or 6 different things. This little semi-coffin with the curved in sides is what the Sweetheart just really liked a lot. Now, what makes a Sweetheart cool to me is it is tighter. If you put this bait next to, say, the other small baits that we have that are super popular, you put it next to a peanut, you put it next to even a runt, and this bait is honestly, it's about the same body size as a runt. This is a small little fella. This bait is a tighter swimming action than the runt or the peanut. What I love about this is I throw these small baits a tremendous amount in the fall of the year. And the fall of the year is when our water is always the clearest. I have fish follow my bait to the boat in the fall of the year and I watch them swim off. I know that sometimes I need just a little bit more natural swimming crankbait, and that's kind of where the Seducer came from. You know, I wanted a small profile bait that was a little more natural for that clear water situation. So everything I'm saying here is the same thing I said about the Seducer. It's just a different scenario. This is the Seducer on the Pascagoula River, where there is no gizzard shad. And if there are any gizzard shad, there's no bass there that are large enough to eat them, so the gizzard shad are in heaven. The Seducer is the same concept, same principle as the Sweetheart. The Sweetheart is just a much smaller offering.
Is it smaller than the Little Cliffy but bigger than the runt?
You know what? I'll just go get a couple of baits. Take me just like 30 seconds. Let me run and get them. I'll go get a runt and I'll grab a Little Cliffy. Tiffany said she'll go get them, and we'll just compare it.
While we're waiting, we had a question back here. Would you consider the Rock Hound a wintertime crankbait? Seems like it would be awesome for the spotted bass in North Carolina. It was way.
Yes, the Rock Hound, it is a wintertime, springtime crankbait. Now, the Rock Hound is a bait that is comparable to a wart style bait in the action that it has, or a rock crawler style bait. So it's a bait that it definitely fishes the most, or a bait that I fish the most in the winter and the spring. That's the time of year that fish are oftentimes relate the most to a crawfish forage, in their own bank types or bottom types that are hard. And the Rock Hound, when I built the Rock Hound, it's truly designed to be able to get on the bottom and keep on the bottom and just keep on digging and chewing and kicking up sediment and immolating the crawfish. And yes, the Rock Hound is a perfect bait for exactly what you just mentioned. And I have no doubt the spotted bass in North Carolina during the right time frame will absolutely love the Rock Hound. So here we go. We've got a runt. And we've got a Little Cliffy. So the Little Cliffy is, for those of y'all that are familiar, the Little Cliffy is bigger for sure. If I can hold these little fellas. Bigger for sure in size than the Sweetheart. And the runt is actually extremely close. The runt is about 1/8 of an inch shorter than the Sweetheart. But as far as width is concerned, it's about the same. So since we've got this little Cliffy here, I'll show y'all. So this is the fat flat, and you can see why I said it's very comparable to it is a big Cliffy. Very similar profile baits, very similar lip angle, very similar action, just a bigger version of the two.
He said the Rock Hound's awesome, and he's caught them in high 30s water temperature.
Yeah, I have, the thing I like about the Rock Hound is I can fish that bait extremely slow in that real cold water. And even though it does have a lot of vibration, when you slow it down, it calms the vibration down. It stays on the bottom real well. and it definitely is a good cold water crankbait.
I do have a badger question too.
You have
Badger.
okay, let's put it out
Is the
there.
badger the same profile as the prowler?
No, the badger is much smaller than a prowler.
What's the running depth on the Sweetheart? He missed it.
Okay, the Sweetheart is a 3-foot depth bait. It is 1 7/8 inches long, and it weighs 1/4 ounce.
And I've got a video.
You got a swim video of it?
I think so. Is the Sweetheart reminiscent of a honeybee?
The runt is going to be similar to a honeybee than the Sweetheart. But if you're a fan of a honeybee, try a Sweetheart.
They want to know if you're going to be at the Classic.
I'm unsure yet. How do I know? Answer.
Sweetheart.
Gary wants to know winter, spring bait and color for Grand Lake.
We hear on the water. So, winter, spring, fall, Grand Lake. How do we do about Grand Lake?
And color for Grand Lake.
What kind of condition the lake is in?
It went away when you
Oh,
walked.
sorry, we'll start over. So, what was the question again?
Winter, spring bait and color for Grand Lake.
Winter and spring baits for Grand Lake. You know, if you're fishing the rocky shorelines on Grand, the pea gravel stuff and bigger, the rock can will be a good choice. The fat flat's going to be a good choice. The little clippy's going to be a good choice. And then, depending on, you know, as those fish start to move back in spring, and, you know, as the water warms up, you know, then you're going to be looking at baits like the Slim. You're going to be looking at baits like the Speedy, the Hickster, you know, and all those baits are, it's really hard to pick a certain bait for a certain lake because, I mean, even that one lake faces different conditions from year to year. One spring the lake might be real muddy, one spring the lake might be real clear, one spring the lake might be high, one spring the lake might be low. There's, you know, all these lakes are always different year after year, which I think that's what makes fishing so awesome, is because it's a sport you can play and you get to play on a different playing field, even if it's your local lake. Year after year, it's constantly changing. But if I had to just kind of throw a few out there, as far as colors are concerned, if the lake's really, really clear, even in the springtime and winter, I've seen shad patterns work really well. So if you're on the lower end or maybe up in Elk River and the water's real clean, you may try some shad patterns, or some of the, you know, on overcast day, I seem to really do well up there with a yellow colored bait like simple crawl, spring crawl, hot mustard, something along those lines. Now, if the water gets real stained, then I'm gonna maybe lean away from the shad and maybe still throw some of the yellow colored baits, but also may mix in some red, something like fire crawl or delta crawl. Another really good choice if the water's real clean would be a real natural crawl color like phantom green. So everybody wants that magical bait, and there's just not one. I wish I could tell you that, but there's really not one. It's all condition based. That just defines everything in the crankbait world, whether, you know, how hard you want the bait to vibrate, how deep you want the bait to run, what color the bait needs to be. All those are based around what kind of conditions that you have, and that's just different every year. most of the time on the same body of water. So someone asked a while ago, comparing the Badger to a Prowler. So this is a Prowler MR, and this is a Badger. You can see the Badger is a little smaller. It's definitely thinner. It's a little more streamlined, and it has a more rounded lip style than what the Prowler MR contains.
One guy said he's a big fan of the Slim and Fire Crawl from January 1st to December 31st.
You know, I'm kind of with you on the flat bait throwing it year round. I don't know what it is, but so many people have kind of stereotyped flat-sided crankbaits as wintertime baits, and there are great baits in the wintertime, but by all means, they will bite that bait 12 months out of the year. You know, as far as the color is concerned, there's certain bodies of water that always seem to, you know, one color seems to always shine. Our color down here where I live on the deltas and all the estuaries down here is hot chocolate. It doesn't seem to matter every year, you know, unless the water's just extremely dirty or extremely clear. But under normal conditions, year in and year out, hot chocolate just really seems to excel down here. I think it's just because it looks a lot like, we have a little crab that lives in here on marshes called fiddler crab, and it looks a lot like a hot chocolate crankbait, and that's why they bite it. So I understand how you feel. I never go fishing on Pascagoula River without a hot chocolate crankbait tied on. I may not catch anything with it that day, but it's definitely going to go with me if I crank my truck and head that direction. So, but as far as the flat bait, fishing it year round, I understand completely. The fat flat's going to open that up a lot even more because it gives you a flat bait that you can get deeper as those fish move out deeper in the warm months of the year.
Blake wants to know, how does a Hickster MR compare to other popular baits?
The Hickster MR has been a really good bait. It's gained a lot of popularity. It's the same body as the standard Hickster. It's just a deeper version, but because it is deeper, it has a bigger lip. So like I said, it's the same body, so the difference in the bait's all in the lip. The bigger lip does a couple of things. It makes the bait does vibrate a little harder, but it also makes the bait crawl through cover better. I've noticed the Hickster MR fishes through wood cover extremely well. It's actually a bait that I've been fishing with here on the rivers a lot, where that's all we do is throw a bait in trees all day long. And the Hickster MR with that longer lip, you know, the longer the lip is on a crankbait, so oftentimes the more it protects the hooks from getting hung. And the Hickster MR will come through not real snaggy stuff, like you don't want to throw it in like a lay down cedar tree. But if you've got good slick cover, you know, an old oak tree that has been in the water for a long time, and it's got pretty good sized branches that are left, the Hickster MR will crawl through that thing like a four-wheel drive truck, which is odd for a flat bait. So it's got some unique characteristics to it as well.
One more question. What bait do you have that would be similar to an SK 1.5 flat?
The closest thing to a SK 1.5 flat that I have would probably be a Bacon. And it's going to be a little bit bigger. It's going to be similar in action to a SK flat 1.5. As far as the swimming action of it, it's going to be very similar. I would recommend a Bacon for that. Okay, so moving on from the Sweetheart. Did you show the swim video of the Sweetheart? Moving on from the Sweetheart. Again, the Sweetheart is next Thursday. That's day 7. Day 8. Day 8 is the Prowler Flat. Now, I'm gonna be real honest and real fair on this bait. The Prowler series of baits, all y'all know, if you follow him very long, that I purchased some of Mr. Ed Chambers equipment when he unfortunately passed away. And his Z series of baits, his Z100 and Z200, have kind of, you know, his Z100 and my Prowler, which no two men can make the exact same bait. Even if you try, it's just impossible. With a handmade bait, all of us are going to do it, whether we want to or not, a little differently. So, but at the end of the day, my Prowler and Mr. Ed's Z100 are pretty similar baits. My Prowler MR is not as similar to Mr. Ed's Z200 because I chose to use a different lip just because I felt like this lip performed better when I did a lot of testing with it. This lip just let the bait get a little deeper, it came through cover better, et cetera, and I'm happy that I did it this way because the Prowler MRs became an incredibly popular, incredibly effective, very well loved crankbait by me and many others. But Mr. Ed made a version of a bait called a Z flat, and I've had a lot of people ask me, hey, are you ever going to make some Z flats? And I think the reason that Mr. Ed's version of Z flat was so popular with certain anglers is because it's one of the very few square bill flat sided crankbaits that you'll ever see. The flat side square bill is not a super popular design, but it also kind of goes back to the question we had a while ago about throwing a slim year round. Flat side baits work year round. I actually used to fish with Ed Z flat some, and I did like it for a lot of situations. When I needed a little bitty finessey square bill that I could throw when it was hard to get a bite, this is one of those baits. This is one of those dainty little balls of baits that you can pick up under real tough conditions and still catch some fish with it. And that's what the Prowler flat is. And that's why I put it in the Prowler series, is because my Prowler series is very similar to Ed's Z series. Ed called this a Z flat. This is my Prowler flat. If any of y'all Carolina boys are clapping in your living room right now, I'm glad, because a lot of y'all have asked me, will you please bring this bait back? It was one of your favorite baits that Ed made. And so I spent the time to try to, I'm not saying mine's exact, like I say, I couldn't make one exactly like Ed did if I wanted to, and I don't think he could make one exactly like me. But this is my version of the Z flat. This is the Prowler flat. To me, it's just a good solid 4-foot bait. It's 2 3/8 of an inch long, and it weighs 3/8 of an ounce. We have a swim video of this bait. It's a very sexy little swimming bait. Does come through cover pretty good because of the square bill. So if you're just a square bill guy and you want a flat bait to try, the Prowler flat will be a great one to put in your boat and give a whirl.
This guy said, he really liked the vertical lines.
On the bait?
He said something about you get bit more.
It's like the perch pattern?
Prowler flat.
Will you be offering upgraded BKK hooks on any of your baits?
As of right now, we're not building any of our baits with BKK trebles stocked, but we do try to keep the BKK trebles in stock all over the country, and you can upgrade them yourself. That's something that we may work towards in the future. I've developed a pretty good relationship with BKK. I cannot tell y'all how impressed I am with the hook that they make. I don't know how familiar all y'all are with BKK hooks, but I'm telling you, if you're really wanting a top of the line treble hook, that's a fine wire, round bend treble hook. You know, that's the hook that I grew up with, was the the old bronze Gamakatsu hooks, and they were great hooks. The BKK Spirit 21 to me is hands down, for the wire diameter that it is. It is hands down the strongest, sharpest, and most durable. What I mean by that is the points don't turn on it constantly as you use it. It's the strongest, sharpest, and most durable round bend treble hook that I have ever seen in my entire life. And all of their worm hooks are phenomenal. Their flipping hooks phenomenal. They're going to be a brand that, because of the quality product that they're making, they're going to be around for a long time. And I'm very thankful that I've been able to get involved with them, because they make an incredible product. And hopefully one day we can reach a point where we can. The issue with that for me is it will raise the price of my baits, and I've always tried to make balsa baits. I know a lot of people see my baits and they're $17.99, and they say, oh my Lord, that's so expensive. But when you compare Black Label to the balsa bait world, not the crankbait world, $17.99 for a handmade balsa bait is a great deal. You know, the hooks cost me money just like they cost you money to buy. If I started putting BKK hooks on my baits, there's a chance that the baits would go from $17.99 to $18.99. So there's really not a tremendous amount of difference between me making them with BKK hooks and the customers changing them to whatever hook that they want if the mustads are not suitable enough for them.
One more comment. Josh says, cool story. Got my dad hooked on crankbaits along with a few other buddies down in Texas. He's never caught a double digit, but this past February he was throwing the slim and caught his first ever 10 on one of your baits.
That's a big one. You know, a 10-pound bass is to me like a 170-inch deer. A lot of people see other people hauling them up and they just don't really realize how truly big a true 10-pound bass is. I've been fortunate enough to catch one, and that's really cool that you caught one of my baits. I think that's awesome. And the next time you do that, send me a picture. I mean, that would be even better. Okay, so the Prowler Flat, like I said, it's Friday, 4-foot depth. This is it again. Y'all seen the swim video of it. If you were fans of the Z Flat and you've been looking for some more to fish with, this is it right here. Day number 9 is the new 1.0. So we've had a 1.5 now for, I don't know, maybe 3 years, and I've gotten constant questions. Hey man, you ever gonna make a 1.0? Hey, are you ever gonna make a 1.0? Sure wish you'd make a 1.0. Love your 1.5. Do you make it in a 1.0? Have you ever thought about making the 1.5 and a 1.0? Here's the 1.0. The 1.0 took me a while to get just right. Started working on this bait a little before this time last year. So I've played with this bait all year. Really happy with it. And it's exactly that. This is the baby brother to the 1.5. If you're a 1.5 fanatic, you want a smaller version of it, it's the 1.0. Pretty simple in a nutshell. You know, the 1.0 is a 3 to 5 foot bait. It's 2 1/8 of an inch long, weighs 5/16 of an ounce. Just a really good finessey small profile. You know, I think what makes the 1.5, 1.0 series of crankbaits so popular is these were some of the first baits to go on the market that were kind of what I've been talking about the Seducer and the Sweetheart. They were more subtle. You know, we all remember when Rick came out with the original Lucky Craft 1.5. It kind of got the 1.5 theme started, and then the 1.0 got spun off of that, and the 2.5 got spun off of it. But the 1.5 Lucky Craft, it was super popular, and I think the main reason why is at that era of time, it was one of the fewer softer pulling crankbaits that were out there, and guys realized, hey, I can use this crankbait more often throughout the year than I can a big, hard thumping, you know, traditional fat bodied square bill. That's exactly why I think the 1.5 was so successful. And that's what these baits are built off of. My 1.5, I love my Balsa 1.5. I love the 1.0 too. When you want a smaller profile, softer, finessier style, shallow water square bill, the 1.0 is going to definitely fit the bill. And it is just a true square bill. There's nothing, hybrid about this. It's just a straight up square bill 1.0.
Video.
Yeah, we have a swim video of the 1.0 as well.
Michael wants to know, do you have any product for Killer Bee 2?
Yes. Look on our website. We have the K2 and we have the K2 Shallow, which would be very similar to a Killer Bee
1.0.
So, Michael, to answer your question a little better, if you're looking for something along the lines of the Killer Bee, we make 2 models of that are very similar. We make a bait that we call a K2. I don't know if you remember the old Killer Bee Deep that had the lead tuning button on the lip before Bagley's switched to the improved lip, as they called it, and did away with the tuning button. I always like those old original ones better that have the lead in the lip. Our K2 is it's just called a K2 model. It's very similar to the Deep Killer Bee that was the original Deep Killer Bee with the lead in the lip. Our K2 Shallow is the shallower version of that bait with the round bill. That it's the same body. It's just got a different lip, and it does not have the lead tuning button in it, as the original didn't either. But yes, the K2 series that we offer, the K2 and the K2 Shallow, K2 SR, are very similar to the Killer Bees from Winter Haven, Florida. Okay, so last but not least, and when I get done talking about this and y'all don't run off, because then we're going to talk about all the good stuff. We got some really cool prizes that we're going to do this year. So I already showed y'all the Sweetheart, and we talked about how much I love the Prowler MR. And I've always been wanting me a smaller version of the Prowler MR, because I like little baits too. So this is the Sweetheart MR, and if you look at it, it's a tiny Prowler MR. It's the same lip, which this is a lip that I created. The Prowler MR lip was a lip that I kind of created out of my own mind, and somehow it worked exceptionally well. I basically just scaled that down, put the same body as the Sweetheart Shallow, and created the Sweetheart MR. So the Sweetheart MR is the same size, it's 1 7/8, weighs 1/4 ounce as the regular Sweetheart, but the Sweetheart MR, instead of running 3 foot, will run 5 foot. This is a really, really cool little small profile bait. You don't find a lot of small baits that they offer in a shallow and a deep. And that's why I wanted to make the Sweetheart in an MR and a shallow running version. So many of there's lots of little small crankbaits out there that are square bills. That's by far and large the most common. But there's very few that actually have a little deeper diving bill that will get into that 4 or 5, maybe 6 foot depth range. The Sweetheart MR, that's why I built it just in 2 different bill sizes. It's just to fit that need for a smaller profile bait that will get a little bit deeper. And so the Sweetheart MR is going to be on day 10, which will be a final day of our sale. Day 10 will be, let's see, a week from this coming Monday. We start on Friday, we'll end on the second Monday after Black Friday, because we're doing a full 10-day sale. So that's all of the new designs that we have. So here's how this is going to work.
Do the action first.
Huh?
Do the action now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah. Let's look at the swim video of the Sweetheart MR.
Sweetheart MR.
What's the code there? Okay, so what we're going to do, let's just talk about the sale for just a minute. This is what we're going to do. We're going to have 10 days. We're going to release one of each of these models, each of the 10 days. For those of y'all that follow us on social media, I feel like most of y'all do, or y'all wouldn't have known about this Facebook Live. You'll be able to very easily keep up with what's coming, what's being released each day. We'll normally release each day. We'll release it first thing in the morning. We'll go through it again right quick for those of y'all that want to know. Day 1 is the C1. Day 2 is the Badger. Day 3 is the Cricket. Day 4 is the Seducer. Day 5 is the Fat Flap. Day 6 is the Wreck Deep, 7 is the Sweetheart, 8 is the Prowler Flat, 9 is the 1.0, and day 10 is the Sweetheart MR. At the end of this sale, well, let's back up from that. During this 10 days, everything on woodbaitcountry.com is 10% off. Everything, the entire website, every brand, every model of Black Label baits, everything on the site is 10% off. All you got to do is go through the process of making your order. When you get to checkout, enter the code BF10. That's Black Friday 10. That's going to be the code that'll get you 10% off. After the 10 days is over and the smoke is cleared, we're going to take every order, not every one who ordered, but every order. So every single time you order, you'll get an opportunity to be put in this drawing. And we're going to draw 5 names. We're going to draw 5 prize packs here. The first name we draw is going to get a fishing trip, if possible, here in Mississippi. Get to come to my shop. I'm going to ask whoever wins it, because I have no idea where the location that they might live would be. All we're going to ask is that you provide your travel to get here. If you want to fly, I'll be happy to rent you a vehicle if we need to, or I'll come pick you up personally from the airport. We have an airport, several airports within a little over an hour from us. You come here, hang out at the shop. We'll make some baits. We'll cook a steak. We'll get up one morning and go fishing. And I'm going to take care of all that. I'm going to take care of all your food, your lodging, your housing arrangements, etc., while you're here. It's going to be basically what we would like to do if possible is work it out where, you come in on a morning, we spend a kind of a midday afternoon here, hanging out around the shop. The next day we'll go fishing, and then if we get tired of fishing at a certain point in time, then we'll come back here. But this trip is going to be all about whoever wins it, whatever you want to do. If you want to go fishing both days and you care less about hanging out around here, then by all means, that's what we'll do. Along with the fishing trip, I'm going to give you 20 free Black Label balsa baits of your choice. You can pick them out while you're here. Now, I will say this as well. So say you live, a great distance away from us here in South Mississippi, and you're concerned about the travel arrangements. Let's just say you live in Minnesota, for example. If you win the drawing and you don't want to travel all the way to Mississippi, I completely respect that. I travel all over the country. I know what a burden it can be. Whatever tournament that I have this year that takes me the closest to where you live, we will set up the trip and go fishing at a different location instead of coming here to Mississippi. You'll still get your 20 free baits, but we'll go fishing on a body of water that is closer to you, but we'll have to make the trip coincide schedule-wise with the event that I'm going to fish that might end up being closest to you. So don't worry about it if you live a great distance away. I promise you we're going to make this work the best for both parties, me and whoever wins it. So second place, it's hard for me to even look at this number and even believe it, but I counted them today, and we now have 59. When I release these 10 baits, Black Label has 59 models of crankbaits that I've designed and created and built. I never thought it would ever grow to that. But I think, I've already been working on my 10 baits for next year, so I know we'll have a continued growth here. But what I'm going to do is, the second name we draw is going to get the opportunity to get what I'm going to call like a collector's set. And it's going to be one each of all 59 models in any color that they want. And if they want me to pick the color, that's fine. If a person wins this and they just want 59 baits that they want to fish with, we'll work out something on that. I'm very flexible. All I want is for whoever wins it to be happy with what they receive. But for those of y'all who like to collect baits, it'd be really cool to have 59 of them that were all the same color, one each of every color. I'm gonna sign every single bait right from the ground that it's built. You'll get a Hollywood included in this, and the other 58 crankbaits, top order baits, etc. that we make. So, pretty cool little collector set right here for that. And then third place is going to be 15 free black label baits of your choice. Fourth place is going to be 10 free black label baits of your choice. And fifth place is going to be 5 free black label baits of your choice. So that's pretty much it, guys. Do you have any more questions, Stephen?
One guy wants to see a smash up close and personal.
You want me to go get it, or do you want to go get it?
I'll go grab it.
Okay. So while she goes and grabs this a smash, I'm going to go through this one more time. First place is going to be the fishing trip. Opportunity to come here, hang out with us. I'll make Tiffany cook you something good for supper. Y'all can look at me and tell she can cook. You and I are going to go fishing, pill around, make some baits. You get to pick out your 20 free baits out of our inventory room. Second place is the one of every model in a color that the winner can choose, or that if they would prefer me choose. I did a little deal on Wheelbait Nation about this, and most people said that I should pick, but there was enough people in there that said they would like to pick, and I respect that. So we're going to kind of let it be whatever the winner wants it to be. If the winner wins it and says, man, you pick, hey, that's not a problem, no big deal. We'll make 59 of a color that I want. If you win it and say, look, Cliff, I'm not collecting baits, but I'd love to just have 59 baits that I would love to fish with, that's perfectly fine. I'll let you pick out any 59 baits you want. Or if you say, man, I'm Ed Dustin, and I love to collect Clemens, and I want 59 Clemens, that's perfectly fine too, Ed. I'll make you 59 Clemens. Third place is 15 free baits, fourth place is 10 free baits, and fifth place is 5 free baits, but those baits need to be black label baits. The code, enter at checkout, BF10. The sale starts Friday morning. It'll go off after 10 days. A couple of y'all asked about custom colors. When I release one of these baits, when I release the Badger and you say, doggone it, he didn't make it in such and such, send me a message. We'll get you what you need. I want y'all to have what y'all need. I appreciate all of y'all supporting us and our brand, and it's important to us that we do the same to y'all in return and make y'all the baits that you need or you want to fish with. So this is a smash. The smash is a good color. It's a very, very natural, sexy shad color. So the smash up close is got a pearl belly. It's got a pearl belly. It's got a little faint orange on it. And then on the side, it's almost got like a golden hue that is behind some silver scaling. And it goes into a darker back that has a blue hue over the dark back. So that is the smash color up close. This is a color I've been painting for probably 10 or 12 years. It's one of the original black label colors when I first started this years ago. And it's always held its own. It's a color that I've caught a tremendous amount of bass with.
Okay. What bait do you recommend for taking my 9-year-old pond fishing in Dallas-Fort Worth? What kind of bait?
Man, I'll be honest with you, when it comes to pond fishing with a youth, I would really recommend that you stick to something that's not micro size, because it might be difficult for him to cast. I don't know how much he fishes, but a really good bait that's going to come through cover pretty good, be small profile. Because if you take a youth fishing, you're going to catch some fish, because that just makes the trip more enjoyable for them and you. If I had to pick one pond fishing bait for a youth that was one of my crankbaits, I would pick probably a peanut. Peanut's a good shallow depth bait, casts really well, comes through cover fairly well, and it's got its own kind of built-in retrieve. There's nothing sneaky about it. If he just retrieves it at a constant speed, it's going to get to its diving depth real easy and be a very easy bait to fish. Now, come springtime, if you get the opportunity to take him in the spring when it's warmed up, if you can take him one afternoon and let him catch a few fish on top water out of a pond, you'll probably have him hooked for life. around here, normally the magic month for that is like April. When the bass get done spawning and they're now garden fry, you can go to any farm pond, or I shouldn't say farm pond, any pond that has a good population of bass in it, and normally catch some fish on top water, either on a popping bob or a tease. Both of those two baits are extremely good baits, and for a youth to be able to visually see it, it's just something special. He can visually see how he's creating action to the bait. He can visually see the fish bite it. He knows exactly when to start reeling. He's not really surprised by anything. So those would be my recommendations as far as taking a youth fishing on a small body of water.
Explain the entries to win the prizes.
Okay, the entries for the prize. So every order generates an entry. So let's just say I'm Cliff Pace, and on day one, Cliff Pace releases the C1, and I gotta have some because I'm scared that if I don't get them now, this color I want is gonna be gone, and there's some other baits that I want. So I go ahead and make my order. So I got an order now on the first day of the sale on Friday, and then on day 5 or whatever day it is, I'll release the fat flat, and I've got to have some fat flats. I've thought about it. I want to buy some more. So I get me a couple of fat flats. It has absolutely zero bearing on the size of your order. There's no minimum to gain an entry. But because I ordered on day 1 of the sale and on day 5 of the sale, and so I order again on day 8 of the sale, I now have 3 entries into the sale. So the more often you order, the more entries you will receive. We offer free shipping on $100, which I know $100 worth of fishing lures, that's a fair amount of money. I'm not squawking at it. But if you know you're going to buy, a pretty good many baits through the sale, some guys say, well, I'll just wait to the end and I'll just place one big order. I wouldn't recommend doing that because you're only going to get 1 entry into the drawing. So you're better off to order them as they come out. If you know you want them, you're going to want them later. Just order them as they come out. The more times you order, the more entry you'll get. And there's no minimum on the order. If you order 1 crankbait, you're just as eligible as a guy that buys 100 of them. It's the same.
And it doesn't have to be the new baits.
And it's any bait. It doesn't have to be a black label bait. If you're big fans of John Hott's baits or Buck Creek's baits or the Lure Forge, and you want to stock up on them during the sale, you're just as eligible as someone who buys a black label bait. Any product you purchase off of Wood Bait Country creates you an entry, makes you eligible to win one of these prizes.
Would you consider keeping the orders to ship one time?
Man, we've done that in the past, and to be honest with y'all, it's kind of a hassle for us, just because we go through the process of packing orders, and the last thing we want to do is miss one of y'all's orders. If one of y'all really wants us to do that and hold it and ship it all at one time, if that's just so much simpler for you versus us shipping it as you order it, if you want to send us a message, we'll try, and if we catch it, we will do our best to do it, but I'm not going to promise you that we will. But I don't have a problem. But if you do want us to hold your orders, that's really a lot better for you. What we need you to do is put a note and a comment on your order. Plan to order again in the next few days. Will you please hold this order? But now, what I don't want to do is this, because this makes it difficult for us. I'm just trying to be fair to everybody here. I don't want you to order one bait on day 1 and then pay, because the website's going to charge you shipping. And then turn around on day 2 and order one more bait and pay shipping. And then on day 4, order one bait and pay shipping. And then on day 7, order 2 baits and pay shipping. And then send me an email and say, hey, well, if you add all my orders together, they're over $100. Can you please go in there and refund me all my shipping, because we offer shipping free over $100. That refunding the shipping is very difficult for us. I don't mind doing it on like one order, but I don't want you to make a tremendous amount of small orders and expect us to hold them all, ship them to you at one time, and then go back, track, and refund you your shipping off of each individual invoice, because that takes a lot of time out of our schedule.
So thank you for providing great items and opportunities.
Hey, this is something we do for fun. I mean, Black Label is a business that is built off of my love for fishing. And I've always been a crankbait junkie. I've always been a wooden bait junkie. And all these baits I build, first and foremost, I love y'all, but they're for me. I mean, I build the baits that I want to fish with, that I desire to have. But I want to thank y'all all for the support y'all have. This thing has grown year after year after year. The brand has grown. All of y'all help a lot in that, and then not just by buying baits. I see where a lot of y'all share posts that I make and that Tiffany makes, and y'all, many people in this comment have talked about you've gotten friends and families, members involved in the cranking side of fishing and introducing to our baits. And I want y'all to know that we appreciate all the things that y'all do to support us. Without y'all, I would get to go fishing so much more. But I really do love building all of these baits. They're kind of like my babies, and I really appreciate y'all supporting the brand like y'all have. Y'all turned it into something more than I ever thought was even possible, and I don't think we're done yet. You know, it just keeps marching forward. So who knows what the Lord holds for us in the future, but I think we're on the right track.
What do you have close to a Bagley DKB2?
Deep Killer B2 is our K2. If you're looking for like the South Florida Winter Haven made original DBK2, they have the lead tuning button in the lip. Get on Woodbait Country, look at the K2. That's just called K2. And if you have any questions about it, shoot us an email, shoot me a message. I'll be happy to get you pointed in the right direction. Yeah, hold on. Y'all hold on just a second. So, upon Tiffany's request, we now have black label keychains. How cool is that? This is a Sweetheart body. That's what I made these out of. I like the idea of this because it's balsa. It's going to float. That's what we've all loved about balsa. So this is something cool that you can use. Maybe put your boat key on or put on your truck keys. I don't know that it will last forever on a set of truck keys going out of your pocket every day, but every person around here that I'm friends with, and they all have keychains that we've made. I have one. Tiffany has one. Where's yours at?
In the truck.
Tiffany's in her truck, but I actually made Tiffany one. Tiffany loves Reese's peanut butter cups. That's kind of her candy of choice. So I made her a keychain last year out of a little Cliffy, and it's a full wrapped Reese's peanut butter cup. Now I didn't do any Reese's peanut butter cup ones in this batch, but I did 7 or 8 colors. But we are going to have keychains available during the sale as well. I don't know exactly what these are going to price out. I'm thinking they're going to be maybe $9 or $10 a piece. It's pretty much the same as building a crankbait, other than the fact that I don't have to install a lip and a belly weight in it, and I don't have to go tune it. But everything else is built the exact same way. It has the exact same clear coat as our crankbaits, has a black label logo on it, has a painted on eyes, and we added the keychain loop to the top of it. So for those of y'all that want a little black label swag, we now have keychains. Yeah, here's Miss Tiffany's Reese's peanut butter cup keychain. And this one has held up really good. And Tiffany's pretty rough on things. So this one's maybe 2 years old now, so I think the keychains are probably more durable than what maybe I'm giving credit for.
Mr. Dave wants to know, is there going to be glide baits anytime soon?
Man, I don't know if I'll have any none before, say, Christmas, but I'm definitely planning to start a batch. I've been really occupied with making these 10 sets of baits right here for the last pretty good while. But I do plan to cut out some more Hollywoods in the very near future and get them going. Some of these behind me right here, so y'all maybe have seen, these are actually going to be sold by a missile bait company. John Cruz and I have been friends for years. He's been doing a deal this year where he has been selling various different live baits on his website. He had called me and asked me if I would make him a batch to sell on missile baits. And I thought it was a good idea, kind of a cross promotion deal for John and I. And so those are going to him. Once those are out of my hair and done and finished, I plan to start making another batch. I'm hoping I can make another batch of the fall bone, the American shad fall, the Gooner shad fall, and I really want to make a fall bluegill. Like a lot of people ask for a bluegill. And so, if not by Christmas, possibly not by Christmas, but hopefully in the early part of 2024, we will have another batch of Hollywoods ready to go. Now, if you really want one, I do have possibly a handful that may become available that I have been finalizing, but it's just a few. You need to go tonight and join the waiting list for all 3 models that are currently on the website. Because I'm probably gonna possibly have a very few that I may post between now and the end of the year. If I do, they won't last very long because it's gonna only be 2 or 3 of each color. Make sure you're on the waiting list so that as soon as I post it, you'll get an email. And if you get that email, order the bait like as soon as you can, or somebody else is gonna beat you to it.
You mentioned the hats.
I don't have them yet, but I do have some Black Label hats on the way. They're going to be a nice Richardson hat. They're going to say Black Label with that country on, so hopefully we'll have those in time for the sale. And if we do, we'll post some pictures of them and get them on the website as well.
Do you have anything like a DT20 or a Wii?
What weed are you talking about? If you're talking about a wee bait?
That's Ed Kostecki. Yeah, a Wii bait.
Well, there's a lot of wee baits out there, Ed, so I don't know. As far as the DT20 is concerned, no, I don't have a bait that'll run 20 foot deep. The closest thing I'm gonna have with that's gonna be my 300 proof, and it's a 14-foot diver, and it will not get 20 foot deep. As far as the wee baits are concerned, his most popular one was probably the size 2, and the closest thing I have to a size 2 wee bait is gonna be a Hipster.
And they want to know, do you sell that jacket, that BKK jacket?
No, I don't. I was very lucky to get this one. I only have the one, and it's not for sale. All right, guys. Happy holidays to y'all. Thank you for your support. Everybody have a good Thanksgiving. Don't eat too much, and y'all stay tuned. We'll start posting some of this stuff for Friday. Like I said, if you have any questions or comments about anything that we didn't cover tonight, y'all reach out. I'm very approachable. And we'll do all we can do to help you any way that we can. Happy Thanksgiving, guys.